Thank you for joining us on Republic TV at 6 p.m. You're watching This Is Exclusive, getting in exclusive pictures. First up from Kolkata of a political clash that's taken place there. That and more coming up on the show this evening. Here are the headlines. "302 signatories, including retired judges, bureaucrats, army officials, issue a statement on BBC's biased docu-series on the Prime Minister." Twin blast in Jammu ahead of Republic Day leaves 9 injured. Investigation underway by NIA and state agencies. WFI in its reply to Sports Ministry slanders wrestlers, refuses to accept sexual harassment charges. In less than 3 months, rape convict Ram Rahim out again on 40-day parole as he continues to mock the system. Vadra Congress now resorting to threats. Police officials in Madhya Pradesh warned by the Congress party of being brought to account if and when they come to power. NIA charge sheet in the Praveen Nettaru case reveals how PFI was raising a killer squad to achieve its mission of an Islamic State in 2047. And getting in these pictures of the situation in Kolkata, where clashes took place between ISF and the Trinamool Congress. As the ISF rally was proceeding from North 24 Parganas, they were marching towards Kolkata. These were pictures of the clashes earlier. Complete mayhem there as both sides clashed and threw charges at each other. And ISF and Trinamool Congress, both sides, both parties clashed. And later the police had to intervene and the march was blocked. It appears the march was stopped and one of the ISF top leaders has been arrested. Naushad Siddiqui reportedly has been arrested or taken into custody. This is what we're picking up, or detained from Kolkata. And the police there having to intervene. I'll go across to Bisaka as well with details. Bisaka, why don't you tell us what happened here, Bisaka?
Actually, the siege started at Bhangur, that is in North 24 Parganas in West Bengal. And as you know, that ISF marks its special day today. So they had a program, and by that time they were observing the program, their scheduled program. They had a severe clash between Trinamool Congress and ISF, and after that they were moving. Their only MLA, Naushad Siddiqui, and his team was moving to Kolkata at Dharmatala. And when they were moving, their car, especially Naushad Siddiqui, the MLA's car was hit with some stones, and stones were pelted. So at that time, he said that I'm going to Kolkata, I'm going to observe the program, and then if somebody tries to kill me, they can come forward, but I won't be resolving my scheduled program. And then he went to Dharmatala, and after that, by that time, he was moving to Kolkata. Arabul Islam, the Trinamool leader in Bhangur, he was protesting against ISF and, of course, especially against Naushad Siddiqui and his brother, Pirzada Abbas Siddiqui. They were having a protest against ISF. And by that time, he was saying that his only demand was he wanted the arrest of Naushad Siddiqui, because as they were alleging that TMC or party office of 3 TMC party offices were having some problem, were damaged by ISF workers. So they demanded the arrest of Naushad Siddiqui, and by that time Naushad Siddiqui came to Dharmatala in Kolkata. They were having their party program, and as per schedule, when he was on the dais, he was addressing his people. But the Kolkata police, they came and they just dragged Naushad Siddiqui out from the dais, and amidst all his workers, party workers, he was taken and he was actually dragged to the prison van. And after that, there was a lathi charge because there was a huge scuffle between police and the ISF workers. After that, the police took him to Lal Bazar, and by that time, the ISF workers was out of control. The police had to charge. They had to make a lathi charge, and they were constantly charging tear gas shells. And at that time, a huge area from Dharmatala Y Channel to Park Street, the huge area, the huge roadside area, and everywhere it was just like a war situation out there between the ISF workers and the Kolkata police. It was a huge scuffle, and the transport, everything was suspended. So now it is there is little bit of transport movement right now, but this is the position right now we are having. There is one scene in Bhangur, that is in North 24 Pargana, where the situation started from, and the second scene that took place in Kolkata, and now Bhangur, where it started from. The Bhangur is equally it is having equal problems, and there is a huge deployment of police, special forces everywhere. There is some special forces deployed to maintain peace and lawfulness, so that nothing nothing weird happens again. So everything is under control. But this entire situation before the panchayat election is going to be aggravated much more, as the politicians are, they are thinking that it is not going to stop here only. It will have more impactful, some more impact in coming days.
Okay, thank you for that. In fact, Bisakha, breaking down the details of what happened there between both the ISF and the Trinamool Congress. ISF claiming that they were targeted by the Trinamool Congress as their rally progressed, as their march progressed. And there is some more breaking news update now coming in. I'd like to thank you, Bisakha, for at this point keeping a close track on the situation there. Getting in some more breaking news now in the Air India P-Gate episode. The latest breaking news update now that it appears Shankar Mishra, the accused, has been sent to further judicial custody. The judicial custody has been extended for the next 14 days, which means he will continue to remain in judicial custody till the 4th of February. And this is the breaking news update that we had. Quick update on the Air India P-Gate episode. Let's move on now. The centre has ordered the blocking of YouTube videos which published the first episode of the BBC documentary of Prime Minister Modi. Sources said this evening, adding that Twitter has also been asked to block over 50 tweets containing links to those YouTube videos. Now, this comes amid controversy over the documentary, which the Ministry of External Affairs has termed a propaganda piece. Let me go across straight to Abhishek. Abhishek, the fact that the government has now intervened and has asked for these links to be blocked shows that the government is in no mood to tolerate the BBC's propaganda this time. Abhishek? Yeah. Go ahead, Abhishek.
So I sort of missed the cue that you gave, but then we know for a fact that this is absolutely a lopsided presentation of a certain part of history, recent history, which obviously makes even some in India uncomfortable. It goes without saying. But then the manner in which this has been presented, the manner in which India's judiciary and its entire process spread over a decade and a half has been treated with contempt. That's something which has come under the focus of the authors of these letter, who themselves have held many constitutional posts. Remember, Niranjan, these are people who have helmed the topmost levels of governance in the country, on the executive side, on the judiciary side, on the legislature side also in some cases. And if you go through them, and these people are those who have really watched the film, Niranjan. So initially the debate was about BBC perhaps being motivated, as it generally is. But this time this is an absolutely reasoned and studied response that's come in. So when they ask that we have never seen the BBC giving in a documentary on the Churchill question, or even recently on the Iraq war issue, the Tony Blair question. Remember, we are as yet to find weapons of mass destruction, despite almost a decade and a half or more of effective occupation of Iraq by the West, and the British forces have been there. So there have been some questions here and there, but not exactly a kind of documentary that the BBC had it been neutral and objective, really would have made on the Iraq war, for example. So this is my thought. But what is important is, Niranjan, that the utter contempt with which a sovereign nation's topmost court of the country and the entire judicial process, which itself, survived a very motivated abuse of law and process of law, and then delivered those verdicts. So be it the work of the Supreme Court monitored, Supreme Court appointed special investigation team, be it the verdict of the lower court of the country in Ahmedabad, then the High Court of Gujarat, then the Supreme Court of the country, then a review petition, then a curative petition. And despite all this over 15 years, if these people continue to have their motivated agenda and continue to have an axe to grind with Narendra Modi, obviously it has to be responded to, and that's why this is a very strong letter coming in from all these veterans of governance in the country, and really asking some tough questions of the BBC. And irrespective of the fact, Niranjan, that the BBC as of now continues to brazen it out, really, the fact that someone there in London, the Member of Parliament, Lord Rami Ranger, he also, held a mirror to the top leadership of the BBC, clearly shows that this time perhaps they might have bitten more than they could chew. And this is not really ending, Niranjan, anytime soon. We are going to see pressure building up. We have seen, for example, the UK Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, really distancing himself and the government of the United Kingdom from what the BBC has done. And this letter essentially a reflection of the anger and sentiment on the ground in India against the manner in which BBC is really brazening it out. Very boring broadcasting corporation, Niranjan.
Well, just, a short question with you, Abhishek. The fact is they've always sort of been against the Prime Minister, and that's okay. They have every right to be against someone. If they hate someone, they can show it, which they are, of course, openly doing. So it's as bizarre as saying, sorry to make this comparison, but if the Doordarshan, for example, a public broadcaster, had to do a hit job on, let's say, Rishi Sunak, right? And we would never do that. I mean, it's in pathetic taste, right? But this time, I think it's gone too far, like you said. But there are some people who are saying that somewhere the aim, because you look at the people who are amplifying it, the people who are using it, a Pakistani origin MP, for example, who raised it, there is perhaps a campaign designed to sort of pick this issue up deliberately, spin it before 2024. Is that the sense that you're getting as well?
You are absolutely right, Niranjan. Remember, since you mentioned Doordarshan, the fact of the matter is that one spelling mistake happened in the case of the Chinese president. That particular anchor was really sacked. And that's the kind of sensitivity Indian establishment really shows when it comes to India's foreign policy. So while we have Rishi Sunak really distancing himself very publicly on the floor of the House, in the House of Commons, from this documentary, the fact remains, Niranjan, that the timing is suspect and the producers are suspect, their motivation and agenda is suspect, and certain links have already emerged. So I think there is nothing left to second guess as to from where this really comes and with what objective. Having said that, if they thought that they could harm Narendra Modi, perhaps there is a delusion and absolute lack of understanding of how Narendra Modi works. I can tell you this is not going to help them in any manner.
All right. Yeah, Abhishek, thank you very much for joining us with those inputs. That letter written by over 300 prominent personalities, some of whom have been diplomats. There are former justices, for example, former judges, and they've tried to run down the Indian establishment completely, from the judiciary to the executive, to all the arms and branches of the government, the police, the investigators, etc. And based on what they call a report given by their own diplomat, and Abhishek has put it correctly, seems like a typical what we call a hit job on the Indian Prime Minister. Thank you, Abhishek, for joining us with those inputs. Let's move on and get you an exclusive interaction on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Niti Aayog CEO Parameswaran Iyer spoke to Republic TV, highlighting how China's story was fading globally, also visible at Davos this year around as India, with its huge presence, shining at the World Economic Forum. As India once again makes the big headlines at the World Economic Forum, joining us on the special broadcast on Republic TV is Mr. Parameswaran Iyer, the Chief Executive Officer of Niti Aayog, straight from Davos. Let me go across straight to him. Mr. Parameswaran Iyer, good headlines coming out of Davos. India is a resilient global economy going into the World Economic Forum, and at a time when China is fading. What has been the response to India there, Mr. Iyer?
No, I think there's sort of almost universal recognition that India is the one bright spot in the global economy despite the headwinds. So India's growth story, the reforms it's undertaken over the past several years, the growth potential, its sort of macroeconomic stability, I think all are pointing in India's favor. There's a very big Indian team in Davos. And in fact, a lot of the streets have India lounges. So India is pretty much the topic of Davos.
Yeah, that was the question I wanted to ask you. India's bigger than usual presence seen this year. Was there some thinking? Why is this happening this year? Was there some thought to scaling up the Indian contingent this year, Mr. Iyer?
Well, it's, I think India has traditionally sent, teams to Davos. And I think this year, they're telling me that it's a larger than usual delegation. But, it's important to have the government of India, but more importantly, businessmen, business executives, startups, entrepreneurs, state governments. So it's a whole of India, a whole of government, a whole sort of Team India, public-private sector, which is represented here. And I think it's making a big difference.
Yeah. And this big presence, what have been the takeaways from that presence in terms of the footfall at the India Lounge that you spoke of, in terms of the increased visibility for India at the World Economic Forum, in terms of comparison with China, which has a muted presence this time?
Yeah, there's very high visibility for India. I mean, it's India everywhere, not just in terms of lounges, but topic of discussion as well. The interest in India from investors from abroad, in terms of all the steps the government has taken. There's clearly this growing interest in investing in India. We're hearing that, we're seeing that, and that's coming up in all the discussions. And I think it's important to note that this is a whole of India presence. There are young startups, there are entrepreneurs in different fields, whether it's solid waste management or digital technology. So I think the presence of sort of Team India has been well registered in Davos, and I think it will make a big difference going forward.
Yeah. How did the G20 presidency factor play out at the World Economic Forum? It's a special year for us.
No, absolutely. It's been uppermost on the discussion agenda. And everywhere we go, the big question is how can India sort of drive development through the G20 presidency? So whether it's digitalization, whether it's climate, environment, lifestyle for the environment, whether it's accelerating the SDGs, women-led development, the reform of the multilateral institutions, and the digital economy, data for development. These are key themes which have resonated in many of the sessions, in many of the bilateral meetings. And I think everyone is very excited about how India's leadership, particularly India for the world, how India can not only shape the agenda, but contribute to sort of global development in very specific areas, including digitalization.
Yeah. Was there any acknowledgement about India showing resilience? I'm sure there was. What sort of acknowledgement did you see of India showing resilience at a time when, most of the world powers are wobbling, China reporting its lowest growth rate in 40 years?
Well, no question that there's been acknowledgement in here in Davos, like it is elsewhere, that this is the one bright spot in a sort of global uncertain period with global headwinds. Acknowledgement of our growth, whether it's been acknowledged by the World Bank or the IMF, our steady growth, the reform agenda, whether we're talking of, GST, the IBC, the PLI came in for a lot of interest. But, just taking all these reforms forward, how we've had record growth in our GST collections. So both fiscal stability, but also in terms of our banking system, there's been growth in credit. And, our non-performing assets have significantly reduced compared to about 4 or 5 years ago. So I think on the economic front, a lot of optimism, but again, on the social inclusion front as well, our social net, our health, Ayushman Bharat programs. So there's acknowledgement that this is growth with inclusion, and I think that's very important.
Yes. Going into the World Economic Forum, what were the expectations from India this year, Mr. Raya?
Well, again, it was, the G20 agenda was quite important to communicate that to a global audience, but also to have discussions on sort of getting investment into India. A lot of bilateral discussions with business leaders. There are 4 central ministers here. There's some ministers from state governments. So in that whole conversation about Team India, attracting investment and really making the point that, India is open for business.
The Prime Minister was in Mumbai and he shared the stage with Mr. Shinde, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Devendra Fadnavis was also there. And, one of the statements they made on stage was the kind of investments and the MOUs signed, etc. Very, very positive, saying over 1 lakh crore for Maharashtra alone. Is that the general trend you're seeing for the entire Indian contingent there?
No, absolutely. I know you mentioned the Maharashtra case. Very fruitful discussions going on other fronts as well. So I think overall, it was an important message to send that, on the ease of doing business, on inviting FDI, India, is making a lot of strides. And now moving on to the G20 presidency, how the agenda can be shaped to a large extent by India and also India for the world. So I think all those themes were very central to the whole Davos week.
Well, absolutely. And congratulations, I think, to the entire Indian contingent and the Indian team there at the World Economic Forum, Mr. Parameswaran Nair, and look forward to speaking to you once again. Thank you very much for joining us from Davos.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Everybody had this American perspective to how they want to run the business. Every Indian startup wanted to be a copycat model of a Silicon Valley startup. So I'm asking you from a cultural ethos perspective, what is your advice to how Indian corporates should run and operate their business and their business environment?
None of them believed in the Western model of doing business. They were only acting the Western model of doing business. So you have to align your culture to development. Without aligning your culture to development, you will never be able to become a global power on your terms.
QS and THE, the world's foremost university rankings organizations, have ranked Amity amongst the top 3% universities globally, making it among the very few Indian universities to be included in both rankings. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with US Senators Lindsey Graham, Richard Blumenthal and Sheldon Whitehouse, who are visiting Kiev. Reports suggest among the topics discussed was the recognition of PMC Wagner as a terrorist organization, referring to the Russian private military company that has been aiding Russia's military in its ongoing invasion of Ukraine.
Again, I just want to repeat thanks to parties for such big help, support, and President Biden, Congress, and for today on Ramstein, I had speech there, and on Ramstein, so Secretary Austin just presented the next package, this package, the last one, $2.5 billion of new ammunition, which are very important for us.
The meeting came as defense officials met in the US Ramstein army base in Germany, where Zelensky called for additional military aid for his country. Agency report for Republic TV. Several Lebanese reformist legislators continue a sit-in inside Parliament building for a second day, refusing to leave until Speaker Nabi Berri holds an open-ended session to elect a new president. Lebanon's presidency is vacant as legislators failed to elect a new president since President Michel Aoun's 6-year term ended on October 30. The worsening political paralysis has left Lebanon not only without a president, but also with only a caretaker government, stalling a host of economic reforms aimed at stopping wasteful spending and combating rampant corruption. Agency report for Republic TV.
Getting in some breaking news on the Jammu twin blasts that took place this morning. 6 people have been detained by the Jammu and Kashmir police. The detained people have not yet been identified. Gursimran joining us with the details. We are hearing that the CCTV footage was analysed, call data analysis has been done, and these 6 people are being questioned regarding their involvement. Gursimran.
Yes, Niranjan, over 6 people have been detained by the Jammu and Kashmir police, and this after the analysis of the CCTV as well as the call recordings, the phone numbers that were active in that very specific area at the time when this incident was reported. Soon after the incident, we have seen that how security forces swung into action and they analyzed each and every detail. One DVR that was very crucial with regards to the developments that were taking place that was seized, and based on that DVR, the CCTV footage was analyzed, and now we are getting to know that over 6 people have been detained by the Jammu and Kashmir police, and at present they are being questioned by the various intelligence agencies, because be it the NIA, the State Investigation Agency, or the central agencies, all are working together to solve this case, because this is a serious threat that has persisted ahead of 5 days ahead of the Republic Day and also 20 days after.
Okay. Thank you for joining us with those inputs. Gursimran, I think we lost the line there with him. We'll try and connect with him. But the latest development on the twin blasts, that 6 people have now been detained. Republic, 48.3%. 374% more viewership than News 18 in super prime time. Content supremacy has destroyed the landing experiment. Republic TV, voice of the people.
QS and THE, the world's foremost university rankings organizations, have ranked Amity amongst the top 3% universities globally, making it among the very few Indian universities to be included in both rankings. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
Several Lebanese reformist legislators continue a sit-in inside Parliament building for a second day, refusing to leave until Speaker Nabi Berri holds an open-ended session to elect a new president. Lebanon's presidency is vacant as legislators failed to elect a new president since President Michel Aoun's 6-year term ended on October 30. The worsening political paralysis has left Lebanon not only without a president, but also with only a caretaker government,